name is Nick. I'm a full-time Forex trader and entrepreneur. We put out tons of stuff for free.
These are real trades. This is real money. I'm putting my money on the line. This is going to be a live trading video here, locking in over $1,000 on this trade.
Wow, I'd love to get in on this.
Technical insights that really look good to me.
There we go, we're live. All right, everybody, welcome back to another stream. Thank you for being here. Had to play the intro for you. How's everybody doing? Welcome back. A lot of you guys who are regulars already in the chat. I can see some of you guys in the chat hanging out. So what's up to everybody there out there on the morning stream? Whether you're here and it's morning time for you, afternoon time, evening time, doesn't matter. Just happy that you're here and hanging out. So we're going to do some analysis. We're going to talk about the markets. We're going to see what's going on. And I'm just going to give you guys a rundown as to what I'm looking at. I actually just closed out of a trade like minutes before the stream on Euro Yen. Maybe we'll start there. So I'll talk about this trade. Let's talk about it on this screen. So Euro Yen actually just stopped me out. So we can check this out. I bought Euro Yen. Where did I buy Euro Yen? I bought Euro Yen here. Probably easier. I bought Euro Yen down here and I sold it right here. So let me just give you guys a quick rundown just because this is what's fresh on my mind. Just, with these streams, I like to just show you guys what I'm looking at or thinking about, talking about. And you can see Euro Yen is one of my most recent trades. Shared this inside of the group with members and I basically went long after price held this support zone very well. Held onto this thing, held onto it, held onto it, held onto it. And then after we saw this thing try and fail to break, I basically tried to hold on to it to see if this support would hold. It so far is looking like it might break. But either ways, I took a profit there today, made some nice money on Euro Yen. So congrats to any of the members inside of the private group who are here with me live on the stream, who also traded Euro Yen. That thing was an absolute monster for a little while there, and happy to have taken profit today. Sure, I didn't get the full thing, but the nature of my style of trading is I end up taking profits, at a point where it's like I'm never going to get the full trade because if I trail stops, right? The unfortunate reality of trailing stops is that if you're taking a trade and you say, okay, I'm going to trail stops. Well, technically you'll never close out at the top because you always take it on a pullback. So that's what I did. I basically took a trade there. That's the downside of trailing stops is you never get the full move, but I can't complain because this thing was a really nice mover. Let's see, what was this? This was roughly like, 40 pips in a few days, which is not a huge amount. I get that, but I was fairly happy with the move and caught some of that. So congrats to any of the other traders out there who caught Euro Yen on the long side. This thing has just been a massive bull train and happy to have caught a piece of it. Maybe I'll look for an opportunity to get long again, but for now, just waiting for that setup once more on Euro Yen. So again, congrats to the traders out there who are holding that. With that said, we've got a lot to look at and a lot to talk about, you guys. Thank you for being here with me. Got some regulars in the crowd for sure. I can see we got Ricky, we got God's Energy, Antos, we've got Zamak, Dade, NXB, Ahmed, John. Thank you guys for being here. Happy Wednesday to you. Wednesdays for me right now are work from home. So you guys already know I'm in my home right now. But we will keep going through some charts, go through some markets with you guys, and just see what's moving and what's not. We will get to gold. I already know gold is moving, and it's in the title for a reason. So don't you worry, gold gang. We will get there, and we'll take a look at what's going on with the gold market. But for starters, let's go get back to our roots. We'll go over to the website a1trading.com and take a look at the currency heat map. So check this out. The currency heat map here. Basically looking really flat for a lot of the currencies. And then you just have the New Zealand still doing its thing. And I want to shout out my friend Ivan, who comes on the streams every once in a while. Ivan is like super long on New Zealand pairs. So congrats to him. I think he had some great moves on that. So good for him. Well played to Ivan if he's here with us. If not, then maybe you just have to tell him next time you see him. If you guys aren't following our secondary channel, or I guess it's not really the secondary channel, it's like the company channel, and then there's just my channel. But if you're not following it, it's the second link in the description. You can meet all of our other analysts, not just myself, on our secondary channel. But Ivan was talking about New Zealand bullishness and really paying off here. So maybe we'll look at some New Zealand crosses. What about the dollar? The dollar's kind of actually finding a bounce. Maybe we'll have a look at the dollar for the day. And then everything else, the CAD looking negative, the Aussie looking slightly positive, probably in sympathy with the New Zealand dollar. These two have some degree of correlation just because of their economies being very similar. They do a lot of trade with China, the US. They are, in a similar geography location, so they both produce some of the same goods. And so naturally, they're going to, in some way or another, move together. So on top of that, what else do we got? Well, we got the euro giving back some of its gains recently, which we saw again on that euro yen trade that I took. I ended up taking profit today on that trade. So we'll see if there's some more setups on the euro coming in hot. All right. So with that said, let's see what we got going on some of these currency pairs. We'll take a look. Move back over to the chart, and let's start with euro dollar. We will get to New Zealand currencies. I want to check those out because those seem to be moving. And let's talk about this euro dollar move that we've been kind of watching for the last few days. Euro dollar pulling back here. So we did get past this previous top. So let's first highlight this spot. So for the euro dollar bulls out there, we did get the break above that we were waiting for on this one. So we saw the breakout. Right now, it does look like it's pulling back here, sort of underneath that area. It depends how you draw it. Like if you're fairly conservative with your range, you could say it's all of this area. So we're currently testing it. It's probably a fair assumption just because, again, with everything going on, all this bullish uptrend, it is trying to just see if the pullback is there for buyers or if buyers are going to fail and we go lower. But what I will say is that it does seem like the euro is still headed to the target that I mentioned, which is this move up to here, 1.234. So with this price giving back, if you're very bullish on the euro, there may be some setup. So let's actually look on the 1 hour chart. We'll drop it down here today to see if there's anything that we can come up with. In terms of fibs, you might have something like here, right? You've got a pullback looking pretty interesting at that 50% retracement. So there might be some opportunities just for a halfway point pullback on the euro dollar. And again, having that same target for me at 1 point, what do we say, 23.4? Is that right? 1.232, 23.3, something like up in this zone. That zone specifically because of the high of the year. So we actually put in a high at that level back in January of 2021. So I think it's a natural place for price to try and go if euro strength is going to continue. So with that said, that's what we're looking at with euro dollar right now. A pullback here to previous support resistance, now turned support. That's the question. Can we hold it? Can we rally? And again, just continuing that upward structure. We did in fact put in a higher high, which was a healthy thing for trend, right? For the trend, right? We had this consolidation for a little bit. Did break out of that, formed that higher high, and now the question is, can this pullback hold for buyers? Or is it time for sellers to take over? Well, let me just give you one more clue as to what I'd be looking for if I was to get bearish. Here on the 1 hour chart, you've got some nice little structure. Something like this, fairly simple. Looking for a bigger pullback, could be a move back to this point. We'll draw fibs from this direction as well. So we are still on the 1 hour chart, but just for clarity, you've also got a pushback to here. So if you're a short-term seller on the euro, if you're day trading this thing or you're looking at this shorter term and you have a bearish perspective, could be a very interesting scenario to see something like this. Break, retest, move back down to the 50% retracement on this bigger move. Again, sometimes people argue, they're like, oh, fibs, don't worry, they're stupid, you should never use this. But you have to think from a very simplistic standpoint. If everybody sees a market trending up, a lot of times people want to be involved, right? It's kind of like when Tesla was running up or Bitcoin was running up. Everybody wants to get involved. Now, there's chasing, which is kind of the silly way to do it, right? Where you just run and you jump into something just because it's up, which can be fairly aggressive and also very dangerous. But then there's also people who are like, okay, well, I understand that there's a bullish catalyst. There's something here that looks good, but I need a discount. And a discount that naturally comes to mind is halfway pulling back. It's a very simple, the 50% retracement is a very simple concept that really kind of makes sense just from a logical perspective. You have a lot of people who want to be involved, but they want to get on a pullback. So they say, hey, if it comes back halfway, I'll jump in and consider that I got a discount, right? That's the basic idea of fibs. It's not magic. It's not, some sort of it is sort of like a self-fulfilling prophecy. A lot of people are looking at it and say, I'd like to get long, but I want that pullback. So for me, if I'm looking at the euro dollar here on the 1 hour chart, if you're a bear, I would probably clear out personally around this level, 1.216. So let's say, like, for example, that I took this trade, and let's say, this thing sets up and I say, okay, well, I like this scenario. Let's say we get something like this. We see price does not stop here at all today. We get some strong downside, and then you see the retracement. You say, okay, well, I like this retracement back to the trend line. Something like this could be interesting, and a push back down, maybe to find more demand, could be in the works. Sometimes you see this. Sometimes you see a strong trend, pause for a minute before continuing, right? And so for the day traders out there who are trying to fade this thing, that could be something to look out for. But again, for me, the first reaction is this thing is in an uptrend. I would be more interested in looking to take it higher than lower. Okay, so like, again, I can be wrong about that. It's not that I know what's going to happen all the time. It's the idea that, okay, well, you have a pullback in a strong uptrend. There might be people here looking at this on the lower time frame saying, hey, I want that same discount. There's the 50 retracement. Can we get something like this, right? So I would say looking for bullish opportunities on the euro dollar, especially with my dollar weakness thesis. Zephy says, can you take a look at it from a COT perspective? That's a great idea. We will do that right now. Okay, let's go look at the currency COT reports here. So this is on our website. You guys feel free to use this anytime you want, completely for free. Head over to a1trading.com. You can get access to, you can see what retail traders are up to. You can look at the currency heat map that I like to look at. You got the COT reports and trade ideas from our staff of analysts. So with that said, let's look at this. So the euro, right? The euro's COT is looking fairly interesting. So from a COT perspective, we're looking at this and we're saying, okay, well, actually, this is super long term. Let's look at this much closer. So let's zoom in here for a second. Back in 2020, right, we were pretty flat with some accumulation going on with the euro, and then start into the year with a lot of accumulation. But then things really broke down. People said, nah, no more euro bullishness. We're selling this thing in favor of the dollar. That was also off the backs of people being like, hey, the Fed is probably going to raise rates. Inflation is sort of going on and the economy is bouncing back. They'll probably raise rates. And then they were like, we're not raising rates anytime soon. We're going to let it be rock bottom to let the economy fully, come back. And so that was like, okay, that's kind of scary. And so now we're seeing a little bit of resurgence back into the euro, with the euro showing some promising growth here in the second half of 2021. I'm getting my years mixed up. So with that, the idea here is that we've seen some healthy accumulation on the euro currency, right? So we see people from institutional perspective, we see the institutional traders buying the euro. Those are your hedge funds, leverage funds, mutual funds, the big players. So when they're buying the euro, that's a healthy sign that, dips could be a good place to look for longs. Now, of course, that's not a guarantee, because there are times where things change back the other direction and you see people start selling it. But from a healthy perspective of like, what are the big traders up to recently? Again, you could be looking for sells in this area. You could be looking for buys up in this area, right? And they are basically doing their research. They've got PhDs all over in those trading floors, and they're looking to buy the euro right now. So with that said, who am I to say, they're absolutely stupid for doing that? Could they be wrong? Absolutely. We can all be wrong sometimes. But the idea is that if they are generally employing those huge bank accounts to buy the euro, then I would probably like to be trying to buy it myself as well. Go with the big money, not against it. That's a pretty important lesson that I've learned a couple different times. But what are your thoughts about smart money? Well, the smartest money that I see is just looking at the COT reports. There's people who have like all these technical indications and ideas that they're trading with the smart money through some sort of manipulation strategy. Say, oh, well, here's all the stop losses. Let's buy here instead. And you get all these concepts. But for me, what's more important is, simple technical analysis is like all I need. That plus the sentiment analysis and the fundamental analysis that I do is enough for me to take trades. I don't need to be super fancy. I don't need 5 indicators on my charts to make a decision as to what I want to do. I just need an idea of the overall trend. So give me the trend, give me the sentiment of big institutional traders, and then give me the sentiment of retail traders. And then, that's pretty much it. I'm looking at sentiment, fundamental analysis, and technical analysis. And that is pretty much all I need for my trading style. From there, I'm trailing stops. I'm letting trends run and stopping out losers fairly quickly. That is it. So with that said, the euro here to me looks like more of a buy than a sell. If I'd be looking at this thing, I'd be saying look for pullbacks here for more upside. Of course, this is not financial advice. I'm just sharing my opinions and analysis, and I can be wrong. There's a danger in people like just assuming or trying to copy other people just because they seem like they know more. Because again, the idea is that if you just copy people, you never really understand what you're doing and why, and so you can do some really stupid things without even realizing you're doing them. So that things like over leveraging and you're letting your emotions dominate your thoughts, right? Those are all dangerous things that get people into a lot of trouble. Let's look at the retail Forex sentiment for the euro dollar here just real quick. We'll take a look here and you can see that it's actually 76% of retail traders are short on the euro, according to myfxbook.com. So that's quite a bit. So a lot of traders here on the retail side are looking to be short. The only thing that would get me short, like I said, would be a shift in the COT and probably some technical structure. But again, for the day traders out there, there might be some setups on the lower time frames if this thing breaks, but we will see. So again, probably have to mark that also as demand just because, again, this was a resistance point. Price broke through it and now is testing that zone. Phil says, can we take a look at GU? I'm currently long, went to 40 pips profit twice and then dropped. That's an unfortunate story, Phil, but we will absolutely take a look at the pound dollar, which seriously seems to be struggling with this one spot. And there's something that I want to talk about with this. So I'm glad that you brought this up, Phil. So let's look at this. Let me extend my levels so I don't freak out. There we go. All right. So the pound dollar here on the 4-hour chart, from a big picture standpoint, again, we've been contending. We've been talking about this level for many streams now, watching to see, can we get the break above 1.42? Right now, we're struggling. We can't seem to break it. So what that could mean is a few things. Let's look at the lower time frames and get an idea. But just remember, again, our main point of interest is this 1.42 high point on the GBP USD, which is a multi-year high. 1.4242 is right around the high of multiple years here since like 2018, I think. Let's see if I can remember properly. Is it 2018? Yeah, look at that. It's 2018, April of 2018. But anyways, so price coming up to this point is really, really trying. But again, you're talking about a high, and a lot of times this can hold some strong resistance from sellers. So let's look at this from a lower time frame and see if we can break this down. So we're looking at the 1-hour chart now. You can see basically what's going on is every single time price tries to come up, you get sellers who step in and push price lower. Sellers come up, push price lower, buyers come up, push price lower. So it's struggling right now. Now, for me, what that means is that I would say the only scenario that I see as a trade right now is like if you were bearish on the pound, something like this, right? Pull back to go, try and go find demand lower because it seems like we're not finding enough demand up here to push price through just yet. The other side is for me to sit on my hands and wait until we see that demand rush in on the pound. If we see the pound break through this previous high, that would be of interest to me here. So we'll just do some lower time frame specification here. So you've got this level here, right? So this top. And again, this is just the idea would be something like this. So if price can actually show us that demand is there, if an excess in demand comes in and actually gets us past this level that we're struggling with, from there, it's like, okay, now I'm more convinced. Now I'm ready to be buying the pound. But so I've been looking at this thing every day on stream with you guys. You probably have seen me talking about the pound dollar 20 times now and say similar things. We're at a level where price seems to be stuck. There's no trade for me until we either break and retest and continue higher, or we seriously start to see a dip overall in the pound, enough so that there could be a discount to try and get involved with. So I have no trades on the pound dollar right now. It is one that I would like to be trading. I'd like to take a long position on, but I got to get the trade that I'm looking for, which is probably a deeper retracement or show the demand is strong enough to actually get us above the highs. Does that make sense? Phil also adds that the trade is currently risk-free, so I have nothing to lose. Phil, it's a good spot to be in. Anytime I can just sit on a trade and just say, if it goes, it goes. If it doesn't, I'll break even. That's a great spot. So nice on that one. So fundamentally bullish. Thank you, Nick. You're very welcome, Phil. Yeah, me too. I mean, I think that the pound has more upside to go, but again, it might just take some time to think about it. Sometimes it can consolidate for a lot longer than we would expect. But I think on the bigger scheme of things, I would say we could see something like that. But again, I can be wrong, so maybe we'll be wrong together. All right. How about gold? We will get there, don't you worry. Gold is probably our most popular chart to look at. So we will get there and talk about gold at a certain point, but there's a couple ones that I wanted to cross off. Of course, we got to talk about the mover today, which is New Zealand dollar. So pulling up NZD USD here, and let's have a look to see what's going on with this one, because as we pointed out with the currency heat map earlier, go back here just to show you guys this. Look how green the New Zealand dollar is today. You can see so much bullishness on the New Zealand dollar. I'm actually not sure what happened. Was there something that happened with the New Zealand dollar going on? So the New Zealand dollar added points to a fresh 3 months high against the US dollar as the RBNZ held its official cash rate at a record low of 0.25 during its May meeting, but projected a 25 basis point rate hike to 0.5% by September 22. Ooh, that is very interesting. The light bulbs just went off in my head as I decided I would like to be long on the New Zealand dollar now. Well, I'll have to look at it closer, but this is kind of cool. So September of 2022, that's fairly soon compared to a lot of the other banks that have talked about raising rates. So a rate hike to 0.5 by September of 2022. That's it right there. So that's a catalyst going on right now, and I would say that's a fairly strong catalyst. So if anything, I like the New Zealand dollar for a potential long setup. So let's look at this with a bit more interest. Monetary policy, says Sean. Thank you. So yeah. So it was something from the RBNZ. So interest rate decisions, always a very big driver of the currency market. If you're a newer trader, let's explain that just for a second. Monetary policy basically is when central banks, the leaders of them, sometimes they get called chairmans or whatever, they make up decisions about what to do with their interest rates in response to unemployment, in response to GDP and economic growth, etc. So when you have something like that where they say, hey, we're going to raise rates sooner, positive rate growth, like higher rates, are good for the currency because it encourages investors from foreign places to come and invest in that economy, in the bonds of that currency, right? Because you have more interest due to a higher yield, right? You have to think, although you and I are probably just traders, we're looking to take advantage of moves, intraday or swing trading or positional trading. There are investors out there who, they might go buy New Zealand bonds because at higher rates, they're more appetizing, right? And that can cause a giant flow of money into their economy, and hence their currency can benefit from that. So when I'm looking at New Zealand dollar with good news like that, that is usually something that I'm looking to be a buyer of, especially when you get these nice green candles. Looking for follow through could be the move for me. So let's look at this from a 1 hour perspective and just talk about this. So obviously we have this range bound market, but again, this news shooting us right on up to the top of this range. Yes, we are finding sellers for now, but again, similar to what I mentioned with pound dollar, what would be most interesting to me would be, can we break through that level? If so, maybe there's some retesting opportunities. So something like this. something like this. Breakout, retest, continuation. See if we can get a long position idea here. Something like this could be pretty reasonable. So, and this is just kind of a zone to zone idea. Some people like to call it zone to zone, right? So if we see the break, so the first half of my thesis here would be, can we actually break out of this range? That would show some great demand, number one. Number two is, can we get the retest? If so, we can get a discount there. That would be where I'd be looking for more upside on the New Zealand dollar personally. So that's my first reaction to this positive news out of the Bank of New Zealand, and where I could see myself looking to try and trade this thing. Again, we've struggled in this range for a little while, so we'll see if price can actually break out. Of course, for those of you guys who are inside of the private Discord, I'll be watching New Zealand dollar because now I would like to buy this thing, but only if I can get a setup that I really like. But something like this, and then targeting here on the 4-hour chart, we'll back up once more. Something like this could be in the works. We could see that break, retest, and push up to the highs here. So you can actually see this thing moving away from the Australian dollar right now, but the Aussie, while we're looking at this, seems to be somewhat lagging behind the New Zealand. So although these things are fairly correlated, you'll see this sometimes where they deviate in correlation to some degree. But then on the longer term, you know, the next few days, next weeks or so, we could see this thing actually trade together again. So in that case, maybe there's some more upside on the Aussie as well, and this discount could be really interesting. So we'll show this really quick. I'd like to just pull this up. So we're going to do a study. So we've got that bullish thesis on the New Zealand, right? But let's say you also like the Aussie dollar and you say, well, why isn't the Aussie trading up with it? Well, this is an instance where we see correlation sort of breaking down and there might be a trade setup. So a lot of hedge funds do this sort of approach where they, let's see, where they essentially, they'll take two correlated assets that have similar attributes, similar inputs, if you will, that cause them to move together. So you can see most of the time, the Aussie dollar and the New Zealand dollar are moving together. They're moving down, they're moving up together, right? And so sometimes you get a scenario like this, where you actually see the Aussie did move up, but the New Zealand dollar is moving more up. So we can actually see them kind of diverging, right? And so there is this argument that, you know, if you have a bullish thesis on one of these, like the New Zealand, you could make the argument that maybe the Aussie dollar comes up with it. There could even be some catch up in that correlation trade. So that's the idea. But again, these two things are fairly correlated. We can see that on multiple time frames here on the 1-hour chart, the 4-hour chart. And so every once in a while, you'll get this situation. We'll look at a 15-minute chart. You get something like this, where, you know, if we were to draw a line of best fit here versus a line of best fit in that same area, you can see that the Aussie is sort of getting beat up a little bit more here on the pullback than the New Zealand. So there might be that setup where you say, well, the Aussie is correlated to this to some degree. Maybe there is some catch up to play with the New Zealand dollar if that bullishness does continue. So this is where, you know, understanding correlated currency pairs can be a helpful thing, because you might not want to take a trade that is short on this and long on this, unless, well, actually, maybe the other way around. Maybe you take a long position on this and a short position on this. Well, what if, you know, this New Zealand dollar bullishness, because these two economies are similar, we also see similar unemployment numbers from Australia, and then this thing starts to really rally, and this thing kind of sort of rallies. In that case, you would be net losing, because you take one that does a little bit of profit and one that, you know, that short position would be a loser. So if this thing rallied. But again, correlation is just an interesting topic. I definitely think it is interesting and also valuable to understand different currencies and how they are related to one another. So yeah, just some thoughts there for you guys who like correlation. But again, the Aussie dollar really giving back some profits here, and probably going to stop me out on one of my trades here for a profit. We'll see. Let me see. Oh yeah, so I'm out of both trades now. I'll have to do an update on that. Nice. I'll take the profit. Hey, we'll talk about it real quick. So Aussie Yen probably stopped me out there. Yeah, so let's see. Where did I get out? Got out up here, trailed my stop, so I got stopped out right around here, took the trade back here. So Ended up seeing some nice profit on Aussie Yen as well. So 2 profitable trades here today. Again, waited on this one for a little bit, but ultimately did close out for a profit. So for those of you guys who are inside of the private group, I'm going to shout out right now, tagged out. I'll just pull it up for a second. Tagged out of Aussie Yen as well. Nice trade there. And out of both of my positions. Okay. Sorry about that. I like to update those right when I see that, just because then I don't miss it. By the way, inside of our private group, I share all of my trades, whether they are wins or losses. I do not win all the time, but we've been on a hot streak recently. So took some trades on Euro Yen and Aussie Yen. Both of them closed out today as they gave back a little bit of the profit, but ultimately closed out for some nice gains there on both of these currency pairs. So if you're not already inside of the private group, there is a link down below in the description. You can see all of the trades that I take, as well as Frank, Patrick. We have open chat rooms, trade ideas. We have educational material, and we do coaching webinars with Joe Barreca, who gets on there and answers questions for members fairly often. So I'll be looking for some more setups now that I've opened up my roster, if you will. So you trade on demo. I do not trade on demo. You can actually see it right here at the bottom of the screen. This is live on TradingView with my broker, Oanda. Don't mess around with that demo stuff. However, if you're a newer trader, you should totally mess around with that demo stuff. I was having a conversation with Miles, who is our producer behind the scenes, and we were talking a little bit about, like, he's new to the trading sphere, but he's skilled in the editing and video sphere. He does. You guys saw that intro on the way in. He did that, and it's fantastic. But we were talking a little bit about, like, how would you get started with the trading stuff? And a lot of people, myself included, when I first got into this, I wanted to jump right in to the, get me into the markets, get me into making money. And maybe some of you guys relate to that, but like, I wanted to jump in right there and start making money. And I said to Miles, and I said, my general advice, I would say for anybody who wants to try this stuff or get into this stuff, is to go with a demo account. Play for free on a demo account, try it out, figure out your strategies, test things out. Demo accounts are fantastic ways to do that. And only after you have seen consistency and started to see some progress, maybe you think about going live on a small account where you can afford to mess up and make mistakes that we all make. So again, see, this is a great example. Leak says, I always win on the demo account and I get scared on the live account. So yeah, it's a tough thing. Managing the emotions and getting used to the movement of your real money is tough. But you already know, we after some time passes, everything that you guys see on my channel, I'm trading real money. I'm putting it in, whether it's a win or loss. I open myself up to criticism, and I hope that in some way that benefits people out there who are serious about this stuff and actually want to learn. I do not win every trade by any means, and so if you like my channel, I'm here to give it as it is, not to hype it up or make it seem better. So anyways, Aussie Yen's still interesting to me though. I'm happy to be out of this one because this thing just seems to sort of be chopping now. So we had a good run there, but I'm going to probably be looking at some other things that are moving a little bit cleaner. Again, I took this trade here back at the bottom of this demand zone, and then price just went sideways on me for a while. Finally popped, was able to trail some stops in there and made some money on the trade. Not a ton, but some money. I think it was like $400 on the trade. So which is good money. Don't get me wrong, but it's a larger account, so it's not like a huge profit there. Anyways, did you pass Euro USD? Yes, that was the first one we did. I think it's time, you guys, for gold. We'll take a look at XAU USD. Can we get some hashtag gold gangs in the chat? Look at this thing, you guys. Let's get some hashtag gold gangs in the chat. For you guys out there who are big fans of trading gold, I already know there's a lot of you out there. Let's get some hype out there for gold today, because this thing is really, really running. If you are long on gold right now, congrats. I have a open position on gold, but it is not a trade. It is a investment. I bought gold back here, but I'd be lying to you if I didn't tell you that I also bought gold, I think like somewhere around here. So I looked at my position on my stock market account, which is where I bought gold. I bought some more here and I bought some up here. And just recently, I basically was like a little bit better than break even. So actually, I guess I must have bought it like up here, which looks awful now. But again, as a longer term investment, it's fine. So I bought some down here, bought some back here, just as like a part of my portfolio when gold was going really crazy. 2020 gold was just in an absolute uptrend. So it was like, I'd like to be a part of this, try and get it on a pullback. It was a pullback, but then it kept pulling back. So I don't know if anybody's ever been in that situation, but it's all good from like an investment standpoint. I'm not looking at this every day, but for the trading side, Frank inside of the group, I keep bragging on him for this trade because it was so cool. He bought it at 17.18 and is still holding his trade. This dude, like, it's just wild that he's still in it. He bought it like back here as sort of like a longer term swing trade, and it just never stopped. So he kept moving up his stop and riding it. So again, congrats to Frank there. I'm going to pull it up. I'm just curious what he's doing lately on it. So we're going to just spy on Frank for a minute, you guys. So Frank bought this thing like forever ago. He bought the SPY. I wonder how that's doing. Is the SPY still moving up today? Let's look at the SPY. Let's expose Frank. Okay, yeah, he's doing well in that trade too. So Frank is long on the S&P. He's long on gold. So yeah, he bought gold at 17.18. Yeah, so he hasn't really made any major updates, but I was just curious to see. He's our gold guy. He's been trading that thing and just holding on to this ginormous, crazy winner. So I think that pretty much has made his year for the most part. Nick, do you trade day trade gold? No, I don't. I'm not really a day trader. I'm more of a swing trader. So I'm looking at this thing bigger picture and looking for those bigger moves. If I was day trading, I'd probably look at like the 1 hour chart. And honestly, there's no way I can buy gold at these prices. But from a swing trade perspective, I can keep my eye on it and say, okay, well, if we get a pullback, then I could see myself looking to get long and try and ride this gold trend. You might say, well, Nick, you're going to be late if you buy in there. But again, trends can go on a lot longer than people expect. You could have been late, quote unquote, to this trend here, and then, still caught the majority of the move, just because when things get really trending, they can really keep going. So can you discuss how you enter a trade? Sure. I look for fundamental analysis to be, first. So I look for the fundamental direction. Right now, I'm bullish on gold. Inflation is a concern here in the United States right now, and that sentiment has things really looking good for gold, especially on a weaker dollar. That's the first part. The second part is like sentiment analysis, which I include sort of COT reports. So I'd look at COT reports and I'd say, what does gold look like on the COT report? Scroll down to the bottom here and I'd say, what's the non-commercial looking like? Oh, it's looking pretty bullish. You've got a nice increase in demand for the gold market recently. That's looking good. That's another catalyst to the upside. And then from a technical perspective, I'm looking for higher lows, higher highs, trending structure, and I'm looking to trail stops and let profits run. That is my entire strategy, like in a nutshell. And it's just doing the research on everything, keeping up to date with all that stuff, which is why I do these live streams. I mean, I also make money from the live streams, but the idea is, of course, I do this as part of my analysis anyways, so I might as well stream it. But yeah, so for me, I'm looking for pullbacks mostly. I'm looking for, opportunities to get involved with this if and only if it gives me a discounted rate. Something like 1850 comes to my mind in terms of like where I could see myself trying to get long on gold if I wanted to, right? Something like a discounted rate off of this trend. From a daily perspective, I do think our target there of 1950 is still reasonable. We've talked about 1950 for a few weeks now. We broke 1850 and then just kept going. So to me, it seems like there's not a lot stopping price to try and make its way up to 1950. So for the gold bulls, be weary if we do get up to that level, because of course you do have some sellers who sort of dominated that the last time we were there. The last time we were at 1950, we got to hand it to the sellers. They completely controlled that area 3 times in a row. Sellers, beating price up. Each time it pushed up to that point. So if we get to 1950, that would be a point where we could see some serious pause on the gold bullishness. But maybe if inflation concerns continue to be the case around the United States and the Fed, something like this could even be in play. Again, that inflation story seems to be driving the price up on gold, as well as just that concern for the US dollar continuing to be weak for now. Again, when you're looking at gold, you're trading gold against the US dollar. If the US dollar has high inflation, is looking weak, and could be headed lower, gold could seriously benefit from that. Now, there are times, however, where you actually see gold and the dollar moving up at the same time, in which case people, for whatever reason, maybe they're fearful around the world about things that are going on. They want to buy the gold market or the dollar, right? I'll give you an example of that time. I think during 2020, we saw some strength on the dollar, and we also saw some strength on the gold market at the same time. And those are like situations where people are fearful of global market activity, and they might want to move their money away from traditional currencies into something that, you know, they see as a potential hedge against inflation, which is gold. And then you also have people buying the dollar as sort of a safe haven, since it is sort of the global reserve currency. Actually, you know, a lot of banks around the world, most of them hold a tremendous amount of US dollars because of how much business they do with the dollar. So just a cool fact for you. Is Frank still on his gold bullish trade? Yes, he is. Frank and I have a similar style of trading. We like to trail stops and, you know, let giant trends form on our accounts every once in a while. It's not every trade, but when it happens, it's really cool. Official Lens, got your message. Would love to come up here and give my analysis. Thanks for reaching out. Lens, let's do it. I'd love to have you on onto the show sometime. Do I have you on Instagram? Yeah, that was me. I sent you a message this morning. I saw your stream and I was like, she'd be cool to have on. You already know, for the followers here, we're trying to get more and more guests to come on and to do their thing and to share their perspective, because, you know, I've been doing this for a while and I love sharing my thoughts, but there's more people out there than just me that you guys might benefit from. So my goal has always been to bring the best content to you guys. And so if we can find cool people to bring on, that's the goal. So yeah, let's Linz, I'll send you a message after this stream. And if you want to come on either today or sometime this week, we can get you up on the secondary channel. We'll get that going. We'd love to have you come on as a guest. Can I be your guest? Shoot me a message, support@a1trading.com, and I'll get it sent to me there. So if you guys if you have channels, if you have content, if you want to bring something to the stream, send me a message. I'm open to having guests on. So that's my thoughts on gold right now. Gold is at a point where I can't see myself buying it, and I definitely can't see myself selling it. If anything, I'm looking to buy a pullback if it happens. And then I think from a target perspective, if I was holding this trade, like if I was if I was Frank Diamond Hands over there holding on to that trade from back around here, I would still think that gold has upside to like 1950. That's my opinion. So with that said, you guys, I'm going to wrap it up. I'm going to send Lens a message, see if she can get up here on the stream and we can hear from her. I'd love to just get her analysis going as well. So guys, with that said, thank you so much for being here with me. I hope you have a great, fantastic rest of your day. Trade safe. Don't be stupid. Keep your your position sizes small, and keep your patience high. So thank you guys so much. Have a great rest of your day, and we'll see you back in the next one.